Okay, I'm getting everything ready tonight so that I can cook early in the morning, and I have run into my first snag. Not having time to build the baffles or deflectors or anything like that. I watched a couple guys on the internet who took their grates out, put aluminum foil on them, turned them on their side, and made their own grates. Unfortunately, mine are not going to fit. They need to go long ways across to cover the top of the hole and make an angle down, but mine will not fit that way. So I'm debating on whether to leave it completely open or do it like I have it now, put them in there long ways. It will deflect the heat at the bottom, but will also allow it to come around the sides. I'm going to sleep on that one tonight, and I'll let you know what I decide to show this brisket. Most of the time when people are doing cooks on YouTube, they do not show the brisket or tell where they got it. I checked with several local stores, could not find one. They could order one, but I couldn't just pick one up. So I went down to Sam's Club, kind of like Costco in some areas, and they had a couple to choose from. The other one was extremely thick. I'd say it was probably 6 inches or more in spots, and thin long ways. And so I decided this was probably the better one to cook, especially after talking to some guys that came up to look at them. This is fairly well same thickness all the way through. It gets a little thin on the end, but pretty good fat on the back, but the rest of it looks pretty good. And as you can see, this was, I'll turn it this way, I guess, about $31, and it is roughly 12 pounds. All right, I'm just about ready to start my fire. I have everything in place except for the fire and the brisket as far as I can tell. You can see a little bit better in the daylight where my basket is, and this is kind of what it looks like the way I have that thing set in there. It is open on the sides, about 2 inches on each side, but it's got a pretty good tunnel underneath. Hopefully a lot of the heat will go down that way. Again, best I can kind of do on short notice. A little water in the pan there. There's 100 little things to learn and think about, just like how much water to put in the pan and things like that. So I'm going to get the fire started up and bring it up to 250, and I'll show you a little bit. Just a second to show that I'm using regular Kingsford briquettes, and I'm using some Western pecan kiln dried that I got from Academy Sports, but it's everywhere at every store down here. I just got a large bag there, and that's the two things I'm going to be using. Before I get started on this cook, I just want to say that I take all the blame for everything that's about to happen. I rushed into this because I didn't have time to wait. I'm going to be tied up the next several weekends, and I'm just too excited about trying this. So I take the blame for everything that goes bad today, but for anything that might go good, I want to thank Malcom Reed from How to Barbecue Right. His brisket recipe for home, I followed it exactly. It was exactly what I was looking for. Amazing, great timing when you're doing these things. There's, you got the fire trucks coming. Okay. Followed his instructions exactly on how to prepare the brisket. I also want to thank T-Roy Cooks, because even though I'm not exactly using the same method he did, his instruction on how to keep the fire going and the temperature up with charcoal and wood, I think it's going to give me a good start for today. Lots of other guys out there. I watched a lot of vlogs and different videos, and I appreciate everybody putting stuff up. This is my way of trying to let new folks know it's okay to experiment, because that's what I'm doing. I've already learned this morning, Malcom looks at easy putting all that rub on there. For me, not 100% sure I got the right amount. Little things like how much water to put in the water pan. You know, that's all experiment to me. These guys know what to do. They just stick it in there. So anyway, we're getting ready to start, and let's see how it goes. These coals look just about right. I am trying the kind of the center minion method here, just to give it a shot. Have the air vents open completely, top shut, completely open here. A lot of different opinions on that. And I'm just going to pour this in the center here, let it get going, and put a couple of sticks of the pecan on top, see if we can get this temperature up, and I'm going to put the brisket. First thing I'm noticing here getting started is the charcoals are smoking a lot. Watching the videos that I've seen, I haven't really noticed that as much. I'm going to play around a little bit with the air vents and all. It may be something I'm doing there. I haven't put the brisket on yet. Still got a lot of smoke coming out of the stack, and I didn't put the wood on yet. So we're just going to fiddle around with that and see what we can do. Would catch a minute. Just want to tell you that I am cooking on the Oklahoma Joe's. It is one that I bought at an auction, brand new, and I'm not exactly sure what was at the auction, but I paid $200 for it. It has cooked many great meals for me, but this is the first time the smoker's ever been used. It is a small grill. I would say it is not more than 2.5. It's not even 3 feet wide there. So you'll see when I put my brisket on there, you can really see the size. It's going to take up most of the grill. So this is much smaller than what most people are cooking on. Therefore, I'm hoping that the temperature gauge, while it won't necessarily be exactly accurate, it's not going to have as large a discrepancy in temperature between this end of the grill and this end of the grill, because it's probably a foot closer at least. So instead of 50 to 75 degrees, I'm hoping it'll be more like 25 degrees difference. Again, we'll see about that today. Lots and lots and lots of smoke here. So I know that's probably just the wood catching first, but I'm gonna have to deal with that before I put this brisket up, so you can see, you can look at the smoke coming out up there. And I know some of this is, again, from the wood just catching. Again, this is dry wood, and there's not really room in my smoker to preheat, which some people have suggested. So I'm going to shut this down a little bit and see what we can get happening here. You can also see that there's some smoke coming out the top of the barrel. Again, something I am planning on doing, but by the time I figured out this was the weekend I had to do it, I didn't really have time to put the sealer on, let it cure and all that. But that is something coming up. I'm going to try, the fire is really roaring here. I'm going to choke this down a little bit and see what that does. I can tell you for sure, this is not what I want to see. I've watched enough videos to know that that's just way too much white smoke coming out of there, and I'm not going to put the brisket on there and ruin it till I can get that straight. First lesson learned: when I was trying to control the smoke, I went the wrong direction by closing it off instead of opening it up. That made it worse. So I opened the vents all the way, opened the door some, and although I'm still getting quite a bit of smoke, you can tell it is not anything like before, and it's starting to thin out, and hopefully it will. I will also tell you that it is probably 45 degrees here this morning. The grill's very cold, and yeah, that's definitely starting to thin out now. Look there. You see, look at the difference in that from opening it up to being closed. That, I can attribute that maybe just to not having coffee yet this morning. As we can see, the grill is starting to heat up. The temperature's starting to heat up. The brisket started out way over on this side here this morning. So we're heading the right way. We're at about 150 right now. Back again, I thought I'd give you a look at the brisket. This is after applying the rubs that both Malcolm recommended and watching him apply them. This is fat side up. I don't know if you can tell that by looking at it, but it is. But it looks really good. I don't think this part of the preparation is going to be any problem at all, and we'll just see how the rest of the cooking part goes. I'm going to tell on myself another newbie mistake here. I've used this grill 1,000 times. I know how this gauge works, but in my excitement to be messing with everything this morning, when I looked at the gauge, I think it was almost 225 a few minutes ago. Naturally, I looked right at the Celsius instead of the Fahrenheit. So if you'll notice, it is at about 420. It was hotter than that when I looked just a second ago. So I'm trying to bring the temperature back down now. Again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That makes sure that anything that's on the basket I just made or anything like that will burn off, will have the chemical reaction and all before I ever put my meat in. So not going to have any problem getting it up to temperature. I may just have trouble keeping it down. But again, lesson learned. I probably should have put one piece of wood in to start with. I put two. I don't think I had too many coals. I just got a little too excited too quick. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I think overrunning that, getting it to about 450, Got just a bit of paint blistering going on there. The rest of it looks fine. It's just in that one area, but that's what happens when you don't pay attention. Completely shut down. The stack, everything is shut as far as I can shut it. We've gone down. We're at about 330 at this point, so I still have a long way to go. I'm trying to gauge my options, whether I need to try to take a piece of wood out, what else I can do to pull this down a little bit. I was worried about this grill getting up and staying at the temperature with it being 40 something outside. It is a pretty decent thickness here, but it's not the 1/4 inch. But I also had some concerns about the fact, because it is smaller, that the fire might be a little too much for it. It's just a very small chamber for that, and those fears kind of came to light right there. Came true is what I'm saying. Just about burned it up, that's for sure. So I'm going to keep on letting it go down. As you can see, I've got the temperature back down to just about where I want it to be. Now I got to continue to work again on the smoke to get that right. Again, at one point this gauge was all the way up here, just for me looking at the wrong thing, just not awake enough. Got up early this morning to do this, and so right pretty close to where we want to be, just a little bit more here. I just still got a little bit more smoke coming out here than I'd like to, and I'm sure that's because of the way the fire was. And we may even open this up now and just see if we can keep the temperature down and get the smoke to clear up just a little bit. Okay, I opened it up. Now the smoke's getting whiter again, but just a minute ago the smoke was down, getting blue smoke again, looking more the way I wanted it to, but I also noticed the temperature has crept back up to about almost a 350. So I'm going to have to find this balance here. I also want to show you, you can see just how this brisket's just a 12 pound brisket. But you can see how it takes up almost the entire area. Again, this is a very small Oklahoma Joe's. It's all I need, at least for the moment. As you can see, smoke's getting worse. Again, before I put this on there, I'm going to figure out what's going on. Okay, so I'm really learning what a yo-yo this can be. Temperature is starting to come down a little bit, but I'm still at about 310. And I want to get it down a little further, but as you can see, the smoke has cleared up again. It's kind of like, if I do one thing, the smoke gets worse. If I do another thing, the temperature goes up. So again, it is learning. I have this set here on the end, just open just a little bit right now. That seems to be the right combination for what I have in the smoker at this point and what's going on. I can tell you that I tend to do just the opposite, and I think I heard somebody say that in one of the videos. I tend to close it off when I should open it up, and so just, you got to experiment. And this whole video is about learning how to do this. What is it going to cost me? It cost me $30 for the brisket, and it cost me some time. Other than that, a little charcoal, a little wood. But learning how to do this can last a lifetime, and that's what this is really all about today. So if the smoke's getting thinner, if I can get that to 275, the brisket's going on. As the temperature continues to drop, and it's just about 300 now, I'm heading there right where I want to be. You can tell that the smoke is almost completely gone, just a little bit coming out, if you can see it or not. So one of the things I think I've learned already this morning, excuse me, I purchased the bag of the small logs, look something like this, and I'm thinking for the size of firebox that I have and all, I think probably the smaller chunks, not the little bitty things, but the smaller chunks are probably more what I need, so I can put a smaller amount of wood in at a time versus a log in this particular smoker. So that's one of the things that I think I will try the next time around. I'll probably just take, if I have any of this left today, I'll probably just take it and chop this up but the next time I buy some, I'll probably buy the small chunks. You know, but I guess they're about the size of a baseball, and try those instead. Just about where I want it. And believe it or not, it has taken the longest time for those last about 10 degrees to get down there. Very impatient here. I wanted to put it on, but I'm waiting till the right time, and then we get to play with this the rest of the day. Just for info, I am probably a good solid 2 hours behind when I started to cook this. Again, that's okay, and that's a learning lesson, but it's taken me that long to get this the way that I want it to be. Little or no smoke coming out, right temperature, brisket. Okay, here comes the next round with the smoker. Now, as you can see, I decided to take a couple of these logs, run down to my saw, and make some smaller chunks. I thought maybe that will work pretty well. Temperature is starting to dip below 250, so it's time to try to add something here. Let's see what we can do without causing too much of that white smoke. What I did, I put 2 small chunks in there, and then I put a couple around here on the side to let them heat up, so hopefully they will ignite faster and not cause the white smoke when we put those in. So what I did, I put a couple in, put 3 around the side to let them get hot so that they will combust faster the next time. And I did open up the end so that we can light this a little bit, but just for a moment. See, the chunks are already lighting. But also putting up quite a bit of smoke. See a little bit coming out of the stack up there. So we're just going to make sure they're going okay. Now I'm going to shut this back up. So far, that seems to be working pretty well. I'm back up pretty much where I want to be, but I've closed it off now. I'm going to let the temperature go back just slightly, but got a little bit of smoke coming out, maybe a little more than I want, but fairly close considering all the trouble that I had to start with. I'm pretty pleased with the way those chunks are working. We'll see over the long haul how that works. I also want to say, even though my grill is not sealed, I didn't get the chance to do that, it's not leaking too bad. A few places here, a little more on the end over here now, but again, fairly pleased with the way it's not coming so much out of the top and all around the firebox and everything. What I'm finding very interesting today, you see there's a little too much smoke going on there, is that this is a real battle between temperature and smoke. I'm finding that I can have one or the other. The temperature right now is about 270. When I adjust enough to get the temperature down to where it should be, I get too much smoke. If I open up a little bit to get the smoke to thin out to be where it should, the temperature rises. And I'm fluctuating between that 275 and about 270 and 280. I don't want it to get to 300 or more, but it's like one or the other in that range. You know, I'm either getting too much smoke or too much heat, and boy, finding that balance is something else. I put 2 chunks in on that last term, which by the way was only about 20 minutes in, but if you remember, I had to work to get the temperature back down. So I think I'm going to put 1 chunk in on the next change and just see what I can do with that. One other thing that I might mention is I am fighting the wind a little bit today too. And so I may get it adjusted fairly well, and then we'll have a big gust of wind come through, and even through, and I'll show you where I've got this right now, very little bit open over here, but when that gust of wind comes through, you know, it fires it up and the temperature jumps, and you got to run over here kind of and adjust it or whatever else. It's too much smoke, I know that, but this is, again, it's pretty close on temperature, and that's kind of where the balance is right now. It might work out better the next time if I am starting the fire a little differently. But we'll just have to see how this turns out. Next lesson. I was fighting that, fighting the fire. Just kept getting more smoke, kept getting more heat. Couldn't do anything with it. So finally, I opened the box to see exactly what was going on, and realized that my wood that I had heating on the sides had combusted. And so instead of having 2 chunks burning, we certainly had 5 chunks burning. Now the heat is closer, and as you can see, the smoke is no longer white. So again, it's a learning kind of day. I guess my smoker's a little too small to put that wood around the side. So I will refrain from doing that in the future. But at least I figured that part out. Much better over here. I need to show this again. After removing those chunks, the temperature went almost immediately back to exactly what I wanted. And check the smoke now. Little bitty things make a huge difference here. I've already seen that. And again, it's a learning curve, but we're making progress. Just a quick update. I just reached the 2-hour mark of the cook. As you can see, there's just a little smoke coming out of the stack. It's right, probably at about 260 right now. Wood warming up on top. I found that seemed to work pretty well. One other thing I want to point out about my smoker, again, it's an older Oklahoma Joe's, but I do think it's after Charbroil took over. But it is the one-piece smoking basket. It is not they're bolted together, and so I'm pretty happy about that. I'm glad because I think it leaks a lot less that way. But 2 hours in, a little bit of drippings down here. We will see what happens. Be back a little later. All right, this is the first time I have opened the lid since I started. I'm past the 4-hour mark. I'm just going to check in on it. I'm probably going to leave it for a while longer before I wrap it. I'm just going to check it one time right now. It looks good, but I do think it probably needs a little bit more. So I'm going to leave it probably 30 more minutes and check it again. So I'm at the 5.5-hour mark, and I've just had my newest problem. For about the last 30 minutes or so, I've been fighting trying to keep the temperature up. That has not been a problem all day long. Matter of fact, it's been going high and then back to 250, 270. But now I put charcoal in, I guess, twice in the last 45 minutes. I've added a second piece of wood, and I'm just now, I've gotten it back above 250 once, but it went back down, and I'm just back above 250 again. And so I'm right about the time I'd like to check the inner temperature, but now it's an issue because it's been down to about 200 twice in the last 45 minutes or so. So I'm going to let it stay on a while longer, try to keep the temperature up, and then check it and see if it'll be time to wrap. But wow, interesting problems. Okay, I pulled out the brisket at 5.5 hours. I did check it just because it's been a crazy day. It was about 158, not quite 160, but I felt like once I stuck it, juice just ran out of it. I thought I'm going to get that wrapped and get it going so we can catch all those juices and things in the foil. I did wrap it in aluminum foil 3 or 4 times around in both directions, put it back on. We're going to let it go for about 4 hours and then check it, and then start checking it whatever we have to after there. But it looked good, it smelled good. We'll see. It's been a crazy day. Well, I'm back again. Ever since we wrapped this thing, I've been fighting this fire, and that's been a while now. I'd say almost a solid hour. Just could not get the temperature up, could not get it over about 250, about 220. And I have kept adding charcoal. I've opened the thing wide up. I've blown on the charcoal. They're glowing, they're red, the ones underneath, and I don't know. I just cannot tell you why it wasn't catching, because there were plenty of coals there. They weren't just white ashed over coals. They were lit coals. But again, we were having a lot of wind. It's a cold wind. I don't know if that's kept it down or what. But finally, I just basically almost filled the thing up with charcoal. I'm trying not to do the same thing I did this morning and overdo it. But, I just finally let it catch just like I was starting a new chimney. And it is finally up. It may be up just a little bit too much. It's running about 290 now, and I'm going to try to get that down. But, it has been a struggle for an hour. I don't know how that's going to affect the meat. But, again, we'll just have to wait and see. Back in a while. All right, I'm out here waiting. I've got about 15 minutes before my first temperature check since wrapping. It has been more trouble since the wrap than any time today. And if you watch this video, you know I've had trouble all through the day. I went through 2 hours off and on of really struggling to keep the smoker up to temperature. I thought I had it fixed once. It lasted for a little while, dropped again, and I like to never have gotten it up again. And I can only attribute that to the wind and the cold. I mean, I'm sure I made mistakes too, but the wind just happened to blow exactly in the direction of the air intake on the smoker. It was blowing hard. It would suck the air back down the chimney sometimes and blow the smoke out the other direction. It was the craziest thing you've ever seen. After that 2 hours, I didn't change anything I was doing, any way I was putting in the coals, any way I was doing anything, and suddenly, pow, it'd be the right temperature. It would stay for an hour without me touching it. And as soon as it started to dip, I'd add a few more briquettes, poke it around a little bit, pow, right temperature, hour without me touching it. And it stayed that way pretty much the rest of the day. So I don't know what happened during those 2 hours. We'll just have to see how the meat turns out, if it affected it or not. But I'm excited. Now the next big question is, am I going to start seeing the stall we've always heard of? Because again, 15 minutes now, I cooked it an extra hour before checking. I originally had planned on doing it at 5:30 my time, but because of having the temperature dips, the low temperatures where I was struggling and all, I decided to go ahead and leave it an hour before I touched it. So it's been cooking an extra hour, and I'm hoping it's going to be at that 198-degree mark. We'll see. There's been many interesting surprises today, and we'll see if this is going to be another one. So as soon as I can check the temperature, I'll let you know. All right, so I just checked it. It was not quite at 198 or 200. It was at 185, which I didn't think was too bad. I don't really believe that is the stall. I think that is from the low temperatures. I really do. So I put another set of briquettes on. We're going to let it set probably for another hour, I would say. I might check it in 30 minutes, but I believe it'll be done at that point. Also, it was not as tender as they say it would be normally when you stick the probe in when it's finished. So even if it was at 198, I don't think it was done anyway. So back in a while. Okay, well, maybe it is the stall. I'm not sure. I left it another hour. It's been on running about 290. It's just kind of where it's settled in, which is kind of high. It ran another hour. When I checked it at 6:30, the temperature was 185. When I checked it at 7:30, the temperature was 188. So it had moved 3 degrees. So I'm just going to leave it on here. I'm not in any big hurry. Just going to see where it goes. Got a lot of time before bedtime tonight. And if it takes 3 or 4 more hours or whatever, so be it. But anyway, I'll get back and show you the final product if I get a chance. This is the finished product. It took 11 hours. And we're going to cut 1 or 2 slices here off the end just to check it out, to know if it's going to be something we're going to want to eat tomorrow. Alright, this is again the finished product slice. This is the very end. This is the second slice. We don't want to cut too much off of it tonight. As you can see, it does have some color to it. And we're going to test it out and just see what it tastes like. Here in just a second, I'll give you a report. This is one last look at the final results. Just want to kind of tell you how things turned out cooking wise. Once I brought it in last night, it was late. We'd already eaten supper and everything. So first thing we did was we did take a few slices off this end down here, just to see if it was going to be edible, going to be any good or whatever else. It turned out that the first several inches down here were really good. Very good flavor, very tender. Exactly like I would want it to be. As we started continuing to cut back further, it started getting just a little more solid, a little more solid. So I knew it probably was not quite done enough. Today, as we reheated it and got ready to eat, I took a knife and started poking around just a little bit in here, and I think I realized one thing that happened. Even though the temperature was up pretty good at the end, when I stuck my knife through, it went in easily halfway or more. Well, when I was checking with the probe last night, I'm sticking the probe in to check the meat halfway, and it slid in easily. But I didn't go further than that, so I did not know that it was not quite done about the bottom inch or so. And so, you know, that's something that I'll have to figure out in the future. Maybe I'll have to, when I think it's done, I'll have to check it for sure. The end nearest the fire, the point end, was cooked great. It was just falling apart, all kinds of flavor, juicy. You can just look at it probably and see that it's very juicy in here and everything. It's very good. We did not separate the two because this part probably either needs to be cooked more or we won't eat this little section here. But really, just despite all the problems that happened yesterday, it turned out really well. And that should say, with everything that went wrong, when you do it the right way, it's going to come out for sure. So leave some comments, ask some questions. Okay, so this is the expanded metal that I bought at Home Depot. I think it was $19. It's 24 by 24. And after measuring my grill, I have a small Oklahoma Joe's. I think probably the 10 by 10 size basket is going to be best for airflow. And so basically I came in here just for my own purposes to make sure I didn't make mistakes. And I laid out the 10 by 10 grid in the center. I just took a Sharpie, I don't know if you can see that, and I marked the Sharpie lines. And then I took my 6 and I marked them differently with O's so I would know the ones that I'm going to cut. And then again, just to make sure I was not making a mistake, the whole old measure twice, cut once thing, I also went along and marked all the lines with F that were going to be the folds so that I made sure everything was laying out the way I expected it to. I'm going to take a Dremel that I already have. I went and got a couple more cutting wheels, and I'm just going to cut this up, and if I get it together, I'll show you what it looked like. Here's the basket I made out of the metal. It took about 2 Dremel cutoffs to make it through it. But other than that, it was fairly easy. This is a 1 or 2 time thing. If I decide that smoking is for me, I'm certainly going to buy a better basket. But for today, this works pretty good. This is the side that it's all together on, and this is, you can see the other side. It should be plenty of air flow through, especially this direction.